We have learned something very important here at Square Table Gaming. It seems there are very few enemies in Elden Ring without a rich history behind them. When starting our research into the Fire Monks, we believed their story would be fairly straightforward, but the closer we looked, the deeper the rabbit hole went. Not only are these enemies guarding the Fell God's flame, but some of their group may be made up of those exiled by the Golden Order. So let's take a closer look at the Fire Monks and uncover the mysteries of their order. The Fire Monks' armor set tells us they are guardians of the Flame of Ruin, which was forbidden by the Erd Tree and said to be kept high in the mountaintops of the giants. Another piece of their armor tells us the grotesque face sculpted on the chest is said to depict the corrupt ancient god of the flame. Taboos transform into lasting obsessions by virtue of the fear that they inspire. There's a couple of different things to take away from this chest piece. Firstly, the grotesque face mentioned on the armor is a facsimile of the chest of the fire giant we fight in the Mountaintop of Giants. Second, the taboo of the flame of the fell god has become an obsession for the Fire Monks, which multiple incantations also allude to. Surge O Flame tells us the giant's flame is the flame of ruin, capable of burning the Erd Tree, and so, following the war against the giants, its ruinous blaze was sealed, and guardians were appointed to watch over it. And the incantations Flame Sling and Whirl O Flame tell us, fire beguiles those who look upon it. Those who would guard the flame would also come to worship it, and so the guardians of the flame are also its worshippers, respectively. So the Fire Monk incantations give us more insight into their order, showing how while their original intention was simply to guard the flame so that none may use its heretical power, over time they began to worship the flame and the fell god its power came from. We believe this change may be connected to the curse surrounding the giants and their power. The giant's red braid tells us every giant is red of hair, and Radagon was said to have despised his own red locks. Perhaps that was a curse of their kind. So the curse of the giants may be represented by their red hair, and every fire monk shares that same red beard. Perhaps the red hair that they share is a sign that they have been overtaken by the power of the fell god. As a contrast to this, the Black Flame monks, who were former fire monks enthralled by the god-slaying Black Flame, do not share their order's red beard. So we know the order the Fire Monks belong to was likely stationed in the Mountaintop of Giants by Queen Marika after the end of the war with the Giants in order to guard the heretical Fell Flame from any who would use its power to threaten the Erd Tree. So why do we find them stationed in Liurnia of the Lakes? The Monk's Flame Blade sheds some light on this by telling us the monks came to the land of Liurnia in pursuit of a fugitive who stole their fire. If you found these monks, it's very likely you first found the Malefactor's Everjail, where we can challenge Adon, Thief of Fire. With this in mind, it's likely these monks locked Adon in the Everjail as punishment for stealing their flame. Upon defeating him, we receive the incantation Flame of the Fell God, which tells us Arganthi, the chief guardian of the flame, had kept this incantation a well-kept secret until it was stolen by Adon. The fell god still lurks within the fire giants. So now we know the name of the man who leads the Fire Monks order, Arganthi. Before wrapping up our analysis on the Fire Monks, we want to take some time to discuss the other members of their order. At the top, we have Arganthi, found at the top of the Guardian's garrison. He is the chief guardian of the flame and clearly thinks highly of himself, wearing the ruler's set and wielding a unique weapon, the one-eyed shield. This shield is said to depict an evil deity worshipped by the fire gods and supposedly destroyed by Queen Marika. Below Arganthi, we have the fire prelates, who the fire monks report to directly. It is said the cauldron perched atop the head of their armor was originally furnished with embers and would surge into flames when the wearer's faith reached its zenith. The rest of their armor tells us the weighty flames of the prelates symbolized the onus of their grave vows as guardians of the flame. Etch this sight upon thine breast of my thunderous gravity. So their massive girth is intentional and a symbol of their position. There's one more weapon associated with the fire prelates that tells an interesting story related to their order: the cranial vessel candlestand. Candlestand used in worship of Byrok, the most hallowed monk prelate of the Guardian's Flame. Concerned over the lazy arrogance with which the monks treated the flame, Byrok severed his own head as a lesson to the others, intending it to be used as a candlestand. His faith yet smolders from within the cranial vessel. So this prelate, in an effort to light a fire under fellow members of his order, literally cut off his own head. The best part of this weapon? It comes with an art of war that shoots fire from the top of the candlestand, meaning that the faith of the prelate willing to cut off his own head perseveres to this day. Lastly, below the fire monks, we have the Thornfire Sorcerers, who in our opinion are the most interesting of the order after the fire monks. The Thornfire Sorcerers are exiled criminals who follow the fire monks, but why were they exiled? A couple of incantations can answer this question for us. Fire's deadly sin can start to tell their story. Incantation originating from a deeply ominous prophecy. The prophet despaired, looking up at the Erd-tree, for soon the kindling would burst into flame, bringing ruin. The burning of the Erd-tree is the first cardinal sin. That is not the domain of mere men. After this, Catch Flame tells us it is an incantation originating from a sinister prophecy. The flame of ruin is anathema to the Erd-tree, but prophets sometimes glimpse it within the faith all the same. Sadly, when this occurs, their sole reward is banishment. So the Thornfire Sorcerers did not originally belong to the same order as the Fire Monks, but after they glimpsed the future where we burn the Erd-tree, they were exiled from the lands between, and chose to follow those who worshiped the flame that granted them their prophetic visions. There are also the Flame Guardians inside of the Guardian's garrison, but it's hard to tell where they fall in this hierarchy. They drop no items, and no lore mentions them, and while they have strong flame incantations, they wield no real weapons, just a torch bowl with a small amount of flame. The Fire Monks are a fantastic example of how almost every enemy in Elden Ring has a story to tell. These large men who sling fire at our Tarnished actually have a distinct place in the overall lore of the Lands Between, and are tied directly to Queen Marika and her conquest of the Mountaintop of Giants. The more we dig into the enemies we face throughout this game, the more in awe we are of how much work went into crafting the history of the Lands Between. Be sure to comment with more enemies you'd like us to investigate. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you like the content we've been working on. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden lore.